Good day everyone, I am Angel Joyce G. Evangelista and I am going to discuss to you the foundations of curriculum. But before that, I have here the learning outcomes wherein at the end of the discussion, you should be able to describe the foundation of curriculum development and explain how each foundation influences the curriculum development. Curriculum development is anchored on a very solid foundation. So, although considered to be a new discipline, its significance in the light of global development has now been acknowledged. So, let us find out what philosophical, historical, psychological, and sociological influences inform the current school curriculum. And how do these foundations reflect the development of curriculum in our 21st century classrooms and learning environment, and who are the identified curricularists with these foundations? So let us now discuss the first foundation of curriculum, which is the philosophical foundation. It is said that educators, teachers, educational planners, and policymakers must have a philosophy or strong belief about education and schooling and the kind of curriculum in the teacher's classrooms or learning environment. So, philosophy of the curriculum answers questions like: what are schools for? What subjects are important? How should students learn? What methods should be used? What outcomes should be achieved and why? So the various activities in school are influences in one way or another by a philosophy. So Jean Dewey influenced the youth learning by doing, as he being a pragmatist. Or to an essentialist, the focus is on the fundamentals of reading, writing, and arithmetic. There are lots of philosophies in education, but we are going to discuss what is illustrated by Ornstein and Hankins in 2004. The first philosophical foundation is the perennialism. Under these are Plato, Aristotle, and Thomas Aquinas. In perennialism, the aim of education is to educate the rational person and to cultivate the intellect. So the teachers assist the students to think with reason as their role, and their focus in curriculum are the classical subjects and literary analysis, wherein the curriculum here is constant. So the trends are the use of great books such as Bible, Quran, and classics, and liberal art. The second philosophical foundation is the essentialism, and under this is William Bagley. So, the aim of education is to promote intellectual growth of learners to become competent. So, the teachers are sole authorities in their subject area or in their field of specialization as their role. So, the focus are more on essential skills of the 3 R's and the essential subjects. So the trends are back to basics, excellence in education, and cultural literacy. The third one is progressivism. So under this is John Dewey. So it aims to promote democratic social living, and the role of the teacher leads for growth and development of lifelong learners. So it is more focused on interdisciplinary subjects. So it is learner centered and outcomes based. So the trends are equal opportunities for all, contextualized curriculum, and is humanistic education. Philosophical foundation is Reconstructionism. Under this is Theodore Brummel. So it aims to improve and reconstruct society and as education for change. So the teacher acts as agent of change and reforms as their role. So it is more focused on present and future educational landscape. So the school and curricular reform, global education, collaboration and convergence, standards and competencies are the trends of this reconstructionism. So let us now move on to the second major foundation of curriculum, which is the historical foundation. So the historical development shows the different changes in the purposes, principles, and content of the curriculum. So the different changes are influenced by educational philosophy, psychology, and pedagogical theories. That this implies that curriculum is ever-changing, putting in knowledge and content for many fields of discipline. So we are going to answer the question, where is curriculum development coming from? So the historical foundations will show the chronological development along a timeline. Under the historical foundation is Franklin Bobbitt. So he started the curriculum movement. So he presented curriculum as a science that emphasizes the student's needs, and the curriculum prepares learners for adult life. So objectives and activities should group together when tasks are qualified. The next is Ware Charters. So he considered curriculum also as a science which is based on students' needs like Bobbitt. So the objectives and activities should match. So the subject matter or content relates to objectives. Next one is William Kilpatrick. So he viewed curriculum as purposeful activities which are child-centered. So he introduced this project method where teacher and student plan the activities. So the curriculum develops social relationships and small group instruction. Next one is Harold Drug. So curriculum should develop the whole child. So it is more child-centered. So the curriculum should produce outcomes. So he emphasized social studies and suggested that the teacher plan curriculum in advance. The next one is Hollis Cowell. So for him, subject matter is developed around social functions and learners' interests. So it is said that curriculum, instructions, and learning are interrelated, and it is a set of experiences. The next one is Ralph Tyler. So for him, curriculum is a science and an extension of school's philosophy. So it is based on the student's needs and interests. So the curriculum is always related to instruction. So the subject matter should be organized in terms of knowledge, skills, and values. The next one is Hilda Taba. So she contributed to the theoretical and pedagogical foundations of concepts development and critical thinking in social studies curriculum. She also helped to lay the foundation for diverse student population. So the next one is Peter Oliva. So he described how curriculum changed as a cooperative endeavor. So the significant improvement is achieved through group activity. So let us now discuss the third foundation of curriculum, which is the psychological foundation. It is said that psychology provides a basis to understand the teaching and learning process. So it unifies elements of the learning process. So questions that which can be addressed by psychological foundations of education are: how should curriculum be organized to enhance learning? What is the optimal level of students' participation in learning the various contents of the curriculum? The psychological foundation is divided into three groups of learning theories. So the first one is behaviorism or association theory. The next one is the cognitive information processing theory. And the last one is the humanistic theory. Under the behaviorism and association theory is Ivan Pavlov. So he is considered as the father of the classical conditioning theory and the stimulus response theory. So this classical conditioning theory is a learning process that occurs through associations between an environment stimulus and naturally occurring stimulus. So it has a major influence on behaviorism, which is based on the assumption that learning occurs through interactions with the environment. So this stimulus response theory is a foundation of learning practice called indoctrination. One is Edward Thorndike. So he championed the connectionism theory and he proposed the three laws of learning. The first one is the law of readiness. So the law of readiness, it is said that the more readiness the learner has to respond to the stimulus, the stronger will be the bond between them. So the next one is the law of exercise. So it is said that the connections between stimulus response is strengthened with trail and practice, and the connections are weakened when the trail or practice is discontinued. The last one is the law of effect. So the connection between stimulus response is strengthened when the consequence is positive, and the connection between stimulus response is weakened when the consequence is negative. So as for him, specific stimulus has a specific response. The next one is Robert Gagne. So he proposed the hierarchical learning theory. So as for him, learning follows a hierarchy. So behavior is based on prerequisite conditions and introduce tasking in the formulation of objectives. Let's now move on to the second learning theories of psychological foundation, which is the cognitive information process theory. So it is said that learning constitutes a logical method for organizing and interpreting learning. So teachers use a lot of problem and thinking skills in the teaching and learning process. Cognitive information processing theory is Jean Piaget. So he believed that cognitive development has stages from birth to maturity. So the keys to learning are assimilation, wherein it is the incorporation of new experience; accommodation, the learning modification and adaptation; and equilibration, the balance between previous and later learning. The next one is Lev Vygotsky. So, as for him, the cultural transmission and development stage, learning precedes development. Sociocultural development theory. So, the keys to learning are pedagogy creates learning processes that lead to development. So, the child is an active agent in his or her educational process. The next one is Howard Gardner. So, as for him, humans have several different ways of processing information, and these ways are relatively independent of one another. So, there are 8 intelligences according to Gardner. So, these are the linguistic, logico-mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily or kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. The next one is Daniel Goleman. So as for him, emotion contains the power to affect action. So he called this as the emotional quotient. The last learning theory of psychological foundation is the humanistic theory, wherein humanist psychologists are concerned with how learners can develop their human potential, the process, not products, and personal needs, not subject matter. The humanistic theory is the Gestalt theory, wherein the learning is explained in terms of wholeness of the problem. So human beings do not respond to isolated stimuli, but to an organization or pattern of stimuli. So the keys to learning are complex and abstract. Learners should analyze the problem and will perceive something in relation to the whole. The next one is Abraham Maslow. So he advanced the self-actualization theory, wherein it is the classic theory of human needs. So it is said that if a child whose basic needs are not met will not be interested in acquiring knowledge of the world. He also put an importance to human emotions based on love and trust. So his keys to learning is to produce a healthy and happy learner who can accomplish, grow, and actualize his or her human self. The next one is Carl Rogers. So for him, the non-directive and therapeutic learning. So it should be an established counseling procedures and methods for facilitating learning, where children's perceptions influence their learning and behavior in class. So the keys to learning is that curriculum is concerned with process, not product. Personal needs, not subject matter. Psychological meaning, not cognitive scores. So let us now move on to the last foundations of curriculum, which is the social foundations. Social foundations includes the groups and institutions that contributes to education and somehow issues from society that has an influence on curriculum. Under the social foundations are the schools and society, wherein society as a source of change, schools as agents of change, and knowledge as an agent of change. So schools it is an institution charged by society to impart specific knowledge and skills necessary for functioning in a society. So they are in charge with the task of transmitting society's cultural values. Next one is Emil Durkheim, wherein the influence of society and social context in education and the things that surround the individuals can change or develop their behavior. So it is the schools and the civil society. The next one is Alvin Toffler, who wrote the book Future Shock. So he believed that knowledge should prepare students for the future. Alvin Toffler also suggested that parents might have the resources to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology, not in spite of it. And he also foresaw schools and students work creatively, collaboratively, and independent of their age. So there are other theories like Paulo Freire. So education as a means of shaping the person and society through critical reflections and conscientization. So the teachers use questioning and problem-posing approach to raise students' consciousness. So the emphasis on questioning, problem-posing, and critical thinking. So his major book is The Pedagogy of the Oppressed in 1968. John Goodlad, as for him, curriculum organized around needs of society and the students. So it reduces the students' conformity in the classroom. The emphasis on active learning and critical thinking and the involvement of students in planning curriculum content and instructional activities. His major book is A Place Called Schools in 1984 and What Are Schools For in 1989. The next one is William Pinar. So it should broaden the conception of curriculum to enrich the practice. Understand the nature of the educational experience. And also, as for him, curriculum involves multiple disciplines. Curriculum should be studied from a historical, racial, gendered, phenomenological, postmodern, theological, and international perspectives. To sum up, the foundation upon which curriculum is based are educational philosophies, historical developments, psychological explanations, and societal influences. And all of these foundations are interrelated with each other. The two outstanding personalities in the cluster of historical foundations who contributed to curriculum development are Franklin Bobbitt and Ralph Tyler. So to sum up their biography, Franklin Bobbitt was born on February 16, 1876 at near English, Indiana. He earned his undergraduate degree in 1901 from Indiana University and worked in several rural schools in Indiana. So in 1903 to 1907, he became a teacher at the Philippine Normal School in Manila. And after receiving his doctorate at Clark University in 1909, he joined the faculty of the University of Chicago, where he remained until his retirement in 1941. So Franklin Bobbitt was best known for two books, which are The Curriculum in 1918 and How to Make a Curriculum in 1924. Franklin Bobbitt was one of the first American educators to advance the case for the identification of objectives as the starting point for curriculum making. He is also the first American educator to define the curriculum as an instrument of social control or regulation for addressing the problems of modern society. Franklin Bobbitt is said as the one who started the curriculum. So Ralph Tyler is born on April 22, 1902 in Chicago, Illinois. And At the age of 19, in 1921, he received the bachelor's degree from Doane College in Crete, Nebraska, and began teaching high school in South Dakota. In 1923, he obtained his master's degree from University of Nebraska and received the PhD degree from University of Chicago in 1927. He also served as a professor of education, and in 1953, he became the first director of the Stanford, California, until he held his retirement in 1966. Ralph Tyler's most useful works is Basic Principles of Curriculum and Instruction in 1949. So it is a basic reference for curriculum instruction development. So he also established the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Science. So Ralph Tyler was considered as the father of evaluation or the father of behavioral objectives. Here is the self-check of this topic. You are going to give the significant contribution that you can recall about the said person. On the self-reflect, you are going to reflect on the following questions. Number 1, identify which among the foundations of curriculum has influenced what you have learned in school as a college student. Number 2, how will the thinking of Abraham Maslow influence your teaching practice in the future? And number 3, do you agree with Alvin Toffler? That ends my discussion about the foundations of curriculum. Keep safe and stay healthy.